I want to talk about a purpose principle, and specifically I want to talk about our 3 dimensions to purpose. A lot of times when we talk about purpose, we're looking specifically for what my unique purpose is. But as followers of Jesus, it's important that we understand there's actually several dimensions to purpose. I call it our 3D purpose. Within this 3D purpose, I've got 3 circles that really help us understand those 3 dimensions. And it's important for us, before I can find out my personal purpose and how I'm uniquely wired, I've got to understand that there's a universal purpose that I'm called to live. This universal purpose, whether you live in the United States, whether you live in another country, wherever you live around the world, God has a universal purpose for every single one of us as followers of Christ to live out. And it revolves around the Great Commandment and the Great Commission. The 2 greats. The Great Commandment and the Great Commission. The Great Commandment is Jesus' words to his followers when he said, you're called to love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. That's the Great Commandment. The Great Commission says that we're called to go into all the world and make disciples. Universally, wherever you live as a follower of Jesus, if you're going to live out your purpose, it starts with understanding I'm going to live out the universal purpose. But the second part is this idea of a unified purpose. This is where every single person, if we're going to live out our purpose, we recognize that we can't do it by ourselves. We've got to be committed to a family of faith. The Bible calls this, Jesus calls this his church. We have to be connected and committed. The Bible talks about as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. We can't discover or uncover our purpose by ourselves. I see so many people trying to go through life and they want to understand who they're uniquely called to be, but they're not committed to a community. They're not in relationship with other people. I've had people tell me, Josh, I'm a Christian and I can go to heaven without being connected to a church. And I tell them, I agree. I believe you can be a Christian and I believe you can go to heaven without being connected to a church, but I don't believe you can reach your potential and live out your purpose without being connected to a community. And so understanding this 3-dimensional purpose, number 1, there's a universal purpose I'm called to live. Number 2, there's a unified purpose I'm called to live. And then number 3, that's where we get to the unique purpose that we're called to live in. I spell unique, YOU-nique. You-nique. It's the unique thumbprint that's God's given every single one of us. This gets more specific to who I am. It gets specific to the gifts, the passions, the story that God has given me, the story He's telling through my life. We want to help you get clarity on what that is, but it's important for all of us to understand when it comes to pursuing and living out the purpose that God has in our lives. We don't start with the unique purpose. We start with God's universal purpose. We're committed to a family living out the unified purpose. And then ultimately, the unique purpose is all about calling and understanding who God's called us to be and the calling that He has on our life. The purpose principle for today is understanding and living out the 3D purpose when it comes to living and leading on purpose.